stopping the share, turning on my mic.
There's Chris.
Yeah, there you go. I got so much stuff to do here. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to IBD Live, where we help you make more money in the stock market every day. I'm Chris Gessel. I head the content department here at IBD. And with me today, we have the triumphant return of Rachel Fox. Rachel, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Tweeter, official tweeter.
Yeah.
Market writer and tweeter in chief. Today she'll be, maybe you'll do a little tweeting, but we're going to be breaking down stocks with Rachel as well. So then Mike Webster, our market strategist, and Mike, I guess I was thinking
just an all-around good guy,
oh,
basically. That's the way I would describe myself.
Don't disagree.
Absolutely. And then, of course, Ken Shreve, senior market writer, big-time leaderboard contributor, and covering the news today in Ed Carson's absence. And let's kick things off. Oh, actually, can't kick things off quite yet. So what's been really great to see is that there are so many people who have been with IBD for such a long time who are on IBD Live with us, and it's great that you're on, and we appreciate your support. And it's also cool to see a lot of people coming in who are new and saying, oh, they're learning so much, and it's really, they're learning more in the shortest amount of time that they've ever seen. So that's very, very gratifying too. So we're here every day to break down what's happening in the pre-market and the first hour of trading, and really kind of lay out a trading plan for the rest of the day, and as well as what's happening in the market and leading stocks. So while we talk a lot about different stocks, remember that these is for informational purposes only. We're not making buy or sell recommendations. Please do your own research before making any trades. That said, we've got Justin today behind me, but not visible. He'll be handling questions, and then Dave is Dave Chung is. Are you making faces behind me or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a little.
And Dave Chung to my left, he's really focusing on leaderboard this morning, but he likes to jump in, and maybe we'll hear from Dave at some point.
I think he'll be throwing stuff at you, probably.
Yeah,
that's my guess.
Yeah, we'll see how Justin gets my attention today. So with all that, let's do a check-in. So Rachel, what's looking good to you this morning?
Well, it's
interesting.
Actually looking pretty bad. Target is on my radar. It's down pretty sharply on a weekly holiday. Comparable sales last year, I think sales were up 5.7%. This year for that week, up only 1.4%, and so Target stock is down pretty sharply this morning.
That's a big difference, huh?
Yeah.
5-1, yeah.
I know you guys are all Target fans. I'm not that much of a Target lover, but
where do you shop besides Amazon?
Well, yeah, Amazon.
Okay. I had to take that choice away from you.
Rachel, I'm with you. I go to very few stores now.
Yeah.
How much stuff? It's like, oh yeah, I can just do
exactly
Amazon.
So,
Mike, what's happening in your neck of the woods?
I'm looking at silver and gold stocks, in particular PAAS, Pan American, and they have some numbers out today, so we'll take a look at that. You're already getting sticky from Jonathan Howard?
Yeah, that's Jonathan Howard, our head of customer service, and he just came and said it's pronounced research. He has this big thing that when I say research, he
it's both ways, tomatoes and tomatoes.
I know, and he's been saying this for about 15 years, and I still research. Okay, so Ken, what's happening in the market this morning?
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. So we've got, first of all, Dow and S&P 500 futures down about 0.1% versus fair value. NASDAQ 100 futures mostly flat. So market kind of quiet in pre-market trading. Of course, we've got the Phase 1 China trade deal being signed today at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. If you're keeping score at home, the U.S. tariffs are still in place on $360 billion billion of Chinese goods, and that's going to stay in place until a phase 2 deal. As part of the phase 1 deal, China is committing to purchases of $200 billion in U.S. goods, including farm products, over the next 2 years. So that deal will be signed today at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. Meanwhile, the House is going to be marching the impeachment papers over to the Senate later today. That's another headline. President Trump also taking aim at Apple stock, not moving much in pre-market trading. In a tweet, he said, "We are helping Apple all of the time on trade and so many other issues, and yet they refuse to unlock iPhones used by killers, drug dealers, and other violent criminals." So this is in relation to the last month's shooting at the cable base in Pensacola, Florida. So President Trump taking aim at Apple in a new tweet. In terms of earnings reports, of course, we saw great numbers from JP Morgan yesterday. Good solid bounce off the 10-week moving average for JPM. Today, we've got Goldman Sachs and Bank of America slightly lower in pre-market trading. Talking about a similar theme to JP Morgan and Citigroup yesterday, strong bond trading. Fixed income trading at Goldman Sachs up 63% to $1.77 billion, but an earnings miss at Goldman Sachs weighing on shares. Bank of America, better than expected earnings. Again, they cited strong bond trading as well. That stock is down slightly. Also in the Dow, United Health Group. This has actually been a really outstanding performer in the Dow. Nice test of the 10-week moving average, and the stock does look to be slightly higher in pre-market trading. Rachel mentioned a comp sales miss, same-store sales at Target disappointing over the holiday period, up just 1.4%. Last year, they were up 5.7%. So these were disappointing sales. Target did keep its Q4 earnings guidance in place, but they did lower their Q4 comp sales guidance. So the market doesn't like that. I'm sure we'll be looking at Target's chart. This had been holding nicely above its 10-week moving average, but shares are down sharply in pre-market trading. Beyond Meat, I know the guys have been talking about a strong move off the bottom in recent days for Beyond Meat. It was downgraded today by Bernstein to market perform from outperform. Bernstein lowered its price target to 106 at last check. Beyond Meat down 5% to around 111. And finally, First Solar. We'll see how solar stocks act today. First Solar gets a downgrade from Barclays to underweight from overweight. Pretty significant price target lowered to 49 from 66. First Solar certainly not the leader in the group. It's been kind of trending below its 200-day moving average, but shares under quite a bit of pressure this morning. Chris, that is all that I have.
So do we know any details on why they're cutting First Solar so much or anything like that? Maybe we'll look for that.
No, we're getting comments that my camera is frozen, but I guess it's just me.
Yeah,
and we've heard that before. I don't know if it's
somebody commented on that yesterday when I was doing Q&A, but then a minute later they said it was fine.
Okay.
So
yeah, we've been talking with Zoom to figure this out because it doesn't seem to be I don't know. It's not systemic. It seems to happen to certain people for a brief period.
Someone's saying mine is not frozen. Thanks, guys. So
Okay.
I guess maybe it's someone's Wi-Fi. I don't know. When I was watching at home the other day, which you guys did a great job, I was having some issues too, but it was mainly, I think it was just my Wi-Fi,
All right. Okay. And I'm seeing some questions about IBD Live, the recap, and a few people are still having some issues with that. So the best thing to do, okay, one, I'll put this
market just opened.
Is make sure you whitelist the URL, and I'll post that right now to Brian Follett's question, and it's investors at em.investors.com. That should help for a lot of folks. And the other thing is, if you still can't get it, send call customer service, give them your email, and ask them to give it to us directly, and we will push it out. So with all that, let's go to the market. And let me share my screen.
It's nice to have a little flat to down open.
Yeah.
I think that's very healthy at where we're at.
Well, I've got the NASDAQ up right now, and you can see how it's opening below that upper trend line that we've been talking about so much for the last couple weeks. And actually, let's go to the weekly and show the larger time frame again. So we've been in this, fairly steep uptrend since October. And that's where we've been getting nervous that it's getting a little overheated, a little extended from the 50-day, things like that.
We're also seeing some rotation that seems to be helping, with stuff. So some medicals sold off. Some of the banks were stronger yesterday. So, we could get we could continue to, just trend higher if we have, some fear in the market, which, we certainly got some yesterday. I mean, not a ton, but, enough to keep you, honest.
Right. And then if we look at this on a log scale, it'll be a little clearer, especially if I zoom out. And, we've got a long uptrend. Oh, I'm on a long uptrend going back from 2011, and we're still in that channel. It's been pretty amazing how it's held that channel. But remember, through that period, we've had significant corrections, near 20%. And this is a period where the market basically went sideways for 2 years. We also had this where the market was really kind of choppy for 2 years, and punctuated by that 24% bear market in the NASDAQ, something like that. So I'm starting to get some alerts. Let's take a look at, and they're all medicals right now. Yeah, okay, so close enough. 23.9, Mike says.
I was muted. I just told you all the secrets.
Okay, so Pod has been building this little flat base or cup. Doesn't really matter what you call it, but there's resistance there, and it's just getting close to it.
If that can go over that, with some oomph, that'll be, actionable.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that.
And we're both trading that, I should say.
Yep. And then AXSM popped up for me. And that is poking above that downtrend line. So we'll check that out. Now, this is a unprofitable biotech, but it's basically a high tight flag in the making.
Yeah, well, it's pretty much made it already, as far as I'm concerned. So that's it. With a high tide flag, you want a rapid advance and then holding in tight, and that's the specifics are 100%, and then typically 20 to 25% depth. Sometimes it can go up to 28%, and this is at 16% where we stand right now. So it's definitely within the norms of a high tide flag.
All right, and TPX, actually getting a lot of alerts. So this is Tempur-Pedic. I still have a small position on this. I'm it's kind of wearing me out. It's been going sideways for so long while the market's been going up. I've been trimming those sorts of stocks that just haven't been acting pretty well, but it's actually getting some support and coming off the 10-week moving average.
It's just been resting here.
Good flat base taking shape.
But with a lagging RS line, as you know. And then I can never say this company name. Anyone want to try? Alnilam. Okay.
I just stick with the symbols.
ALNY. So here's ANLY also kind of breaking a.
Oh, that looks interesting.
Yeah. So let's take a look at that on MarketSmith.
Very interesting weekly chart. Bounce off the 10-week. I don't know anything about this one, but
This is one that we've covered a lot. Allison Gatlin, who
oh,
is
really?
our biotech medical reporter, she is amazing. The number of stories she writes and really, hits all the different angles of all the things that are happening in biotech right now. So I know that we have many stories on this one. So
Well,
This is
I guess
also a
I know what I'm
company-
going to be doing when I get off the show.
yeah,
This is also a company that, well, obviously a big player in ALS, and they announced a preliminary guidance just a couple of days ago. So buyers have been pretty good preliminary guidance. So buyers have been coming into the stock.
yeah. So this is one where it look sales. There might be a milestone payment in somewhere in here, but it does have revenue growing. No earnings yet, but let's take a look at the fund ownership and see if there's anyone that we know and that we like. And yeah, look at that. So Fidelity OTC, and T. Rowe Price. So whenever we see these
And
funds,
the T. Rowe New Horizons has been adding to it, and it's actually a decent sized position. I mean, that's pretty much all the homework you need.
yeah, well, that's why we take a look at these, and remember, the way I do this is I've got most of the funds off of the IBD mutual fund index, and then also over the years we've looked at funds that we know, and we see that they buy the things that we like, and they're also they have a good performance history. And if you do your activity list, yeah. So I'll just flag all those, and that's what's in my flag folder here. All these different tickers, and I'm happy to share them. I've shared them a couple times. We can add them to the recap email today. But that's how, if you flag them, go to fund ownership, and then sort by the flag, then you'll see the funds that you're following and whether or not they're in there. So that's looking interesting. The only thing, again, because it's been consolidating while the market's been rallying, the RS line is lagging a little bit, although the RS line had been in a nice strong uptrend. So Rachel, why don't we take a look at Target and see how that is looking?
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's down, I think, like
don't
like
sugarcoat it. Come on.
It's down like 6%, or it was down 6% right at the open. So it's actually okay. It's getting a little bit better.
I'd say it's still.
I think you were right the first time.
Yeah, pretty bad. So I guess if is this on any of our leaderboard or anything like that?
No,
okay.
No.
Well,
so you can be negative.
Okay, cool. So I can just dip into it.
You don't have to sugarcoat it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if it's still down like this by the end of the week, it'd probably be a good idea to sell it for anyone who owns it. But it's been extended for a while now, past I think the last buy point was a 49 buy point. That was back in, back in October.
Right. And then there was this pullback to the 10-week moving average where you could have added shares or started a position.
Sure.
Anyone who added here, you could definitely start selling some of your position. Yeah. And if you want to wait till the end of the week for the other shares, that would be fine as well. But don't let
to the end of the day, to see how it reacts, because sometimes people will come out and defend it, and so if it takes out today's low, then I would trim. But right now it's it's still above its low for the day. We're just
really
very. That's what it's showing on mine.
Okay. Well, it looks like it's right near the low.
Yeah.
No, okay. I'm just saying what TradeStation's telling me.
Okay.
But it's heading right down there really fast. But if it took that out and I had a position, which I don't, I would be trimming some and then try to wait till the end of the day before you do any heavy selling, and then the end of the week,
So we finally found a stock that you don't own.
Yeah, I only own 19 stocks right now. I
okay.
trimmed back yesterday. I concentrated and trimmed back.
Nice. Okay. All right. So we'll keep an eye on that and see if it gets any support, because we have seen some, pretty dramatic swings in stocks that started the day down
Yeah.
low.
Yeah.
Like Dexcom was
Yeah.
one, and earlier in the week. So just because it's down right now doesn't mean it's going to spend the whole day. So let's check back with the market. So
Market's up.
while we've been talking, the market's been acting pretty well. Nothing wrong with that, except that we're right back at that upper line on the Nasdaq. And so
One upgrade I forgot to mention at the open, just a new issue, Peloton. It's going to be interesting to see what the holiday sales look like for this company. But Wedbush came out. They initiated coverage with an outperform rating and a 37 price target. Peloton climbed above the 50-day moving average yesterday. Volume was light, but higher than the prior session. It is extending gains today. So not entirely exciting, but the fact that it's back above its 50-day moving average could mean it's ready to start to form the right side of a base here.
It's pretty steep there. I don't think I would buy off of that downtrend, but it is forming, another base here if looking at the weekly chart. And I know people love this stock, especially people who actually use it. It's one of those things. If you have one, you're going to be into it. You're going to be into the stock. But I would just caution here, just because if you look at the volatility of the stock, it's just pretty loose. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, this is 31% deep, and it had that big, some really big selling in here. Big red bars and taking out its new 10-week moving average. So it's not something that I would be jumping into right now.
But hopefully it tightens up. If it tightens up, we could be all over it.
Let me. I'm just curious if there's people that So Miller Opportunity. It's pretty good.
Let me check my list and see.
See any stocks that you like. And let's see the other A+ funds.
Well, Gilder Gagnon, I think I'm totally just demolishing that name, but they're in there with the
just say Gilder.
Okay, I'm going to do that, and I'm never going to try to pronounce something I can't again ever in life. But Gilder, I've always watched them because they happen to be in a lot of our stocks, and it's actually a pretty big position for them.
Well, a friend of mine used to work there. He
I think
and he's been to level 4 before. He's got a hedge fund now, and they're very aggressive growth, but they will hold as long as they feel like the story is intact on the stock. They will hold.
Wow!
And
I don't do that.
Yeah, no. They'll take some big drawdowns, and they'll hold it through bear markets, major bear markets too.
Okay.
But if you see them in something, it's a good sign that there is conviction about a stock. So,
going through my watch list, trying to find something good.
Oh, there was a question earlier about Progeny, and that's one that I think a number of us have. Yeah. I do. Pulling back a little bit today, it looks like.
Yeah.
And the question was, can it be bought right now? So what do you think about that, Mike?
I have a pretty decent sized position. I've been concentrating over the last little bit, and this is one of the ones that I'm concentrating in. And if you don't have a position, I guess you could be stretching and it maybe buy some here, but to me, it really feels extended. I mean, I started buying it in the
you were like right there.
Yeah, kind of like in the 27, 28 range, and I've been adding to it ever since. And yeah, I wouldn't. It's just too extended. I mean, I'd like to say to buy it. If you own it, I would hold it. It's an inside day. It's actually nice for these things to the hot stocks that we've been talking about to actually be down and get some fear in them. You don't want them up a bunch each day. But no, I don't think you could buy it here. What about you? What are your thoughts?
Well, so what about the move over 30? Move over 32. I guess that was kind of too short to be a to be a base. Was that not a? Was that just a much riskier?
Well, I
hit
guess with
management?
that, I'm just looking at the ideal buy point. Here, let me toggle back to what I was looking at my own screen. I want to see what you have on there. So the 29.29 was your first buy, and then obviously it shook us out from there. Or it shook me out. Then when it regained that, that was another buy. And you go over a couple days, you could buy it there. I mean, I guess you could stretch and say 32 is a buy point, but I just think I wouldn't want to push anybody in this one.
Gotcha.
Well, and especially
It's
the
just
way
so
that,
volatile that I feel funny about, telling someone to buy something that is this wild, because they'll probably get shaken out.
and the other thing is it's 21% above the 10-week moving average.
Yeah.
So if you're going to size a position like that, you're going to end up with a teeny position. Maybe you could do something like off the 21 day, which is at least yesterday. The 21, that's the green line on my chart. 19%, yeah, it doesn't really do much for you. So that's the issue. This thing has jumped up so much. I mean, you could take a token position, get your your feet wet, and then that'll keep you with laser-like focus on it.
Yeah, I'd say the low of a couple days ago at 29.14, like if it goes below there, I'm going to be exiting the position or at least part of it. And so,
This one right here, right there on that day, is that what you're talking about?
hold on, I keep on toggling over to my one day over that one. Yeah, the
That
low
one,
of that
yeah,
day,
the low
29.14.
29.14.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's so if you did that, so 29.
Because the chart would look funny if it went down there.
And
Are
a
you
lot of
doing
these
some
recent
math over there?
Yeah, so that, I mean, that's still going to be like 11.5%.
Yeah, it's just too far away.
Right.
Yeah. So let's move on to
All right.
something more actionable.
has an in mode type trading personality too. A lot of these recent new issues
Yeah.
that
Right.
we're talking about, they tend to trade in volatile.
Now, Bill is breaking out right now. That's something that
It's,
we talked about
yeah, we talked
yesterday.
about it yesterday.
I have a position in it, and that's actionable right here as it goes over the highs. Now, this one feels a little squirrely too.
Really?
It doesn't feel squirrely to you?
It does
Yeah.
feel squirrely.
Erratic price swings, yeah.
Yeah.
But what's weird is, look at that. Is this true? There's average volume on it. What's the share count?
Well, it's skewed because the first day of trading pushes things up high. So,
so it's got 39,000 right now. I don't know.
yeah.
It seems a little, but even, yeah, a little
Pretty soon
higher.
we're going to get a whatever. I'm picking up on all of Chris's little things.
Well, and I'm
nothing phases this guy. Like he'll
imitating Ed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ed is watching.
Okay, well, let's really rip into him now.
I tell you, Ed, man, he just goes on and on and on. He never stops talking. Okay, let's find something else.
Okay, yeah, that's a little weird.
Ed is always right.
Yep.
We know that for a fact. Now, Amgen is looking interesting. AMGN. It's so that's not a squirrely one. This is more of a slow, pokey guy. And if you had, it wasn't quite an outside day yesterday, but it gave you that feel of kind of like an upside reversal ish off of the coming into the 50-day, and it's kind of breaking that downtrend.
Right.
It's a slower, safer. I mean, for a biotech, it's a slow, safer.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, look at all these 3 weeks tights. I mean, it just in the last quarter, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. So it's just not going to do that much. If it's
which I'm looking for something like
time.
that. If I'm trading Bill, Progeny, Beyond, Tesla, like I want some stuff that I can sleep with.
Well, I'm more, if I'm going to be trading things that are, tight all the time, I want to see them going up more and outperforming the market. So,
in the same industry group as Amgen, obviously we've been talking a lot about Vertex, a leaderboard name, really solid bounce off the 10-week moving average last week, and you can see on its weekly chart, it is trading, still tightly.
That's actionable right here, I think.
I agree.
I own it. You own it, right?
I'm sorry.
The VRTX.
Vertex.
okay.
Yeah.
No, I was reading a question. So
Okay.
Just, a good example of a conviction bounce off the 10-week
Yeah.
moving average last week. And then just to see, this week so far, it's just trading tightly near highs. This one has, really established itself as an outright leader in the biotech area.
And
I'll
just
probably
look
be adding to it
how
here.
the over the last quarter, nothing but blue spikes.
Yeah.
Just
That is
under
accumulation.
Under accumulation. Yep.
Right. If you're going to go for a slower biotech, this would be the one
Well, yeah,
rather than Amgen for me. So,
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not going to argue with you because I'm not buying Amgen. Amgen, I'm adding to my VRTX as we speak. So I guess I'm with you there.
Okay. So Ren Cheng Lu is asking about Tesla and saying it's extended, which we agree, and saying it looks like how it looked from in May of 2013 to October of 2013, and also
it's very hard to disagree with that.
Yeah. So let's just double check first on where it is versus its 10-day moving average, and it's actually down today. And yesterday, as much as it was up, it was 13.8% above the 10-day at the close. And I think, Justin, you did the math on it yesterday. It was around 15 or something at the high. So that's getting extended, but it's not that area where you would necessarily get a really violent pullback that we've seen, like with InMode or things like that, where they were really, really extended.
This is, I mean, I have a position in it, and it's acting perfectly. I'm nervous about it because it's because of the volatility and really the shorts in there that are getting squeezed. And I'm just waiting for the day that some really bad news comes out. It's going to be a Tesla on fire or some horrible event that they, even if they manufacture it. So that will happen. It will be down a bunch, but I'm just buckled in and trying to step back and use the weekly chart on this one because I think it has a lot of room to go, and I'm going to play out the close below the 10-week line, and so it's going to be a hard one to hold.
Well, to Ren's point, if you look here in May, back in 2013, when it was first taking off, it got 20 more, just over 20% from the 10-day line, and then it immediately had a pretty good correction for a few days, and then took back. And so that typically that's not a top; it's just a time where it will signal a pullback. So.
And if you look at that on a weekly there, while you have this change date, that is the one rule that we know that can keep you in something super powerful. And someone was mentioning Taser from 2003, 2004 yesterday, and the one rule that would have kept you in that monster move with this highly volatile stock was just using the 10-week close, a decisive close below the 10-week line, and there you have it right there. And so that's why I'm kind of with this one, I'm stepping back and just saying, okay, I'm just going to use. I got a little carried away with my size in a couple of accounts of this one, so I don't know. I might have to back away from some of that at some point, but I'm trying to just lock it away and use the 10-week, and we'll see what happens.
Right, and we've seen Mike did a really good presentation at the Masters event that we had in December, looking at some of the big winners, and it was amazing the number of them that look just like this, where they have these monster moves, 300, 400, 500%, and never close below the 10 week until their first big major correction happens.
And you found the same thing separately. Bill's been talking about this for decades, and when Charles Harris and I would do model book studies, every time when we're done, we're just like, why don't we just use the 10-week as our only one? And you get too close to it. You're looking at interdays, you're looking at news, and so I can't do this with every stock, but I'm going to attempt it with this, and we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
You know, the one last point on Tesla, we were talking about Vertex as, you know, just an example of a stock under meaningful accumulation in recent weeks. And I think it's important to note that behind Tesla's recent gains, if you look at Chris, we can go to a daily chart on MarketSmith for Tesla and look at all the volume that has been behind this stock on up days. And then the final point I would make to that, and by the way, this is not a heavily shorted stock. You know, even before its move, I mean, its days to cover ratio was in that two to 3. So it's not one of these stocks like a you know, with a days to cover ratio of 8, 9, or 10. The other thing I would note about Tesla is that despite a massive price gain in recent weeks, you look at the stock down 1.3, 1.4% today. Volume is pretty heavy. Chris, maybe you can confirm that. Volume is pretty heavy in the early going here, and the stock really is you know, not giving up that much ground. So
But you can't buy it here though.
No, it's way too extended, but way too extended, obviously, and but the move that it's made has not been wedging higher in light volume, which we've seen a lot of stocks do. There's been a lot of low volume gains, stocks hitting new highs in the enterprise software group, for example, in light volume. There's been a lot of conviction behind the buy in Tesla. And I think today's price performance is very telling. Everybody's waiting for this thing to pull back. It's trying to come down today, down 1.3%. Volume very heavy, but there are still look to be some buyers in the stock today.
So Diana Lowe is asking about D-Dog, saying it's heading back up today. So let's look. Yeah. Again, this thing's true to form. It's all over the place day to day. Again, not profitable.
I had to back out of this one just to be able to try to hold on to my other ones, because you just can't have too many wild stocks in your portfolio. And this one and a couple other ones is like, no, I need more Vertex type slower things to balance things out.
Well, yeah, I backed away from it as well. I didn't sell all of it, but for that very reason. It's just I was too exposed in the market. I just saw there was another question about using how I use SQQ, and I can give a quick refresher on that. So what I've been doing, and it's mainly because, well, where we are in the market, and also yesterday I was still like 160% exposed in the market, and that just felt too much because I kept walking up to Mike and Justin and saying, okay, so I'm going to do this, and I'm throwing out these different ideas. And basically what I did is I went through my stocks, because none were showing sell rules or doing anything wrong, but I had to come up with a way of reducing things. So I just went through everything and looked at their RS lines and which stocks didn't have RS lines that had been trending higher lately. And it's like, okay, they're not helping me right now, just making me nervous. So I trimmed those, and we'll see where it goes.
And the look on your face when after you trimmed, and this is a great teaching experience, because we all know each other when we're feeling like a little bit like, heavy or light. If you're too light in the market, I came in very light.
Everything,
you end up with 40 stocks, and then just speaking from experience, and then you whittle things down. But you were just too heavy for how you were looking at the market, and just selling a little bit, like just your face, you look so happy and content, and you're going to be able to handle things better. Now, you brought up the relative strength line. We've been getting a lot of questions on this because yesterday I mentioned how the relative strength number is completely different than a relative strength line, and and so just to be very clear, it's very simple. Relative strength line is just the stock's performance versus the S&P 500. It's the same in all of our products, whether it's IBD or MarketSmith or our institutional products. Relative strength line, stock's performance daily versus, or daily, weekly, or monthly, depending on what you're looking at, versus the S&P 500. So if you're stock is flat for the day and the market is up 1% for the day, the line's going to go down a little bit. If the market is flat and your stock is up 1%, so it's leading, that line on that day is going to go up a little bit. So we look at it over time, and obviously, we all focus on that line, not any one day's wiggle, but for the entire thing that we see on the chart. The relative strength number is the stock's performance for a year against all stocks in the database. So we just rank the performance. We double weight the most recent quarter. And then we just put it, the number one best performing is 99 all the way down to a 1. The problem with that is when you have these stocks, like pull up AXSM that we were looking at earlier. This stock has had such a huge move. It's at 99, right? It's one of the best performing stocks in the database. If that stock cratered and came all the way down to $30, that RS line is going to show it. The RS line is going to be diving straight down, but the number is still probably going to be 99 or 98 because it's measured over a year. So that's why they're different animals. They're both very, very important. Relative strength of 87 or higher is key. The higher the better, but they're just different, and you just need to kind of understand what you're looking at. I wish the names were different because it confuses people.
Yeah, right. Maybe we'll come up with a new name. And then the other part of the question was, how am I hedging? And that's with options on SQQQ, and it's a really efficient way about the I think
call options.
Call option.
SQQ, yeah.
So for very little margin in your account, you can get a lot of protection. But the thing to remember, like yesterday, the market was down at the worst maybe 4 or 5/10 of a percent on the NASDAQ, and growth was getting hit a lot more.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't. I mean, it was helping a little bit, but it wasn't really doing anything that would have made a substantial difference in the account if the market had stayed down there. And so that's always the rub of sometimes we've seen days when growth has been down 3% and the market's been down flat, and it's very hard to hedge that way unless you're putting puts on individual stocks, which would get very expensive.
Chris, I just wanted to call out the major stock indexes near highs. NASDAQ and Dow up 0.4% now, S&P up 0.3%. Market did seem to strengthen. Larry Kudlow was on CNBC saying that additional tax cuts from President Trump are coming later this year.
He's such a negative guy, though. I love Kudlow. He's like the most positive person. Like
he called them tax cuts 2.0.
Oh, really?
Will be unveiled later this.
All right. Well, that's new news for the market. Definitely something to watch and see where that goes. Well, let's take a quick look at our ready list and see if there's anything that we haven't been hitting.
I'm sure there must be, because
Netflix is I don't know if you guys are looking at that right now, but it's up. Well, it was up almost 1% a minute ago. Now it's only up 0.5%, but it's in a buy zone. Ignore the RS rating and RS line, but it has a good composite rating, good earnings per share rating. So I don't know.
Do your friends watch Netflix, or what do they watch in your age group?
Netflix. I don't know the shows. I'm sure.
But it's Netflix versus like Disney, the new Disney stuff, or Hulu, or what have you.
Yeah, definitely Netflix.
Okay.
I think
that's what my kids too.
On.
They're always. I mean, I'm on Netflix all the time, and they're
it's
on
like
Netflix.
The main one, yeah.
I've had a Netflix account since I think 1998. The first year that they came out, there were these things called DVDs.
What is that?
Yeah, it's you had a.
Just kidding.
For a second, I'm like, oh my gosh. Then I felt really bad,
Rachel.
Ooh, good one. Oh, that was awesome.
Okay.
Moving on.
Yeah, moving on.
She plays well with us. That's great.
Good. Yeah.
So, I mentioned Netflix in the stock market today. I was doing a market update at investors.com, and I said that this is just an example of how a stock kind of dawdles around a buy point here. It's been a pretty unimpressive breakout attempt so bar over a little handle area here.
And a
So
3 weeks tight.
yeah, I mean, on the one hand, you have a pretty easily identifiable handle buy point here, but a stock that is just really not showing much interest in breaking out with conviction over that buy point. So
Yeah, that we haven't. I mean, the biggest volume day was up.
and just the volume hasn't been coming into the
23%.
stock. Yeah.
So that's something. But I know, it's in
NVCR.
a trend. And VCR.
Yeah, let's take a look at that now. It's not exactly in a buy point here, but I know this is a very popular stock. What is fascinating is it's got a double bottom in the handle of this larger cup with handle that, whenever I see that, it reminds me of Chrysler from the 62,
Oh, right.
63 time frame. That was Bill's stock that he bought before Syntex and just killed it. That was during the Cuban Missile Crisis or right after that happened. And so this is something we see in a lot of our big models where you have a kind of a larger cup with handle, and then the handle itself is a base. It could be a smaller cup with handle. In this case, it's a double bottom. So I'm going to have this on my radar.
What was also interesting on this one too, Mike, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but you could also draw a little trend line from that recent high of 96.14 right across that 90 and get a little trend line breakout as well.
Well, if you toggle over to what Chris did, that's exactly what he did. So great minds think alike.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We're working together here.
Market Smith chart.
No, I know. I do that all the time. I have to toggle back to see what he was doing.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason, I mean, we've been keeping an eye on this. This is a medical stock that has really strong sales growth and is now turning profitable. And let's see if we can. Let's check the. Is there anyone in there that we like?
Yeah, T. Rowe Price.
God, again.
There you go. So, they just kick butt, man.
They're all over these things. So that's why I guess the big issue is that RS line does not look great. Whereas when it broke out here, it was confirming the the left side high, and it had a really nice move. And so that's the.
Look at all those weeks in a row that were up. That was some serious buying. But no, I see the RS line issue and agree with it. But if that goes through that buy point, I'm going to be touching. The ITB, the ETF for home builders and such, the ITB is breaking out. I have Nail, which is the triple of this one. So that's something to consider if you want some exposure to. How do you feel about this one?
Well,
I know the RS line looks awesome.
I know. Well, that's my big problem with both of these. Whereas when we were trying to do something, and it looked kind of sloppy because the market was correcting at that point. But when it finally cleared this area, that RS line was shooting higher because I mean it was clearly in new high ground. That probably would have been a blue dot day in here. So
well, that was out of the base, so
coming out of the base.
But in that that feeling of it,
right?
Look, I think you look at some of the like Toll Brothers, TOL, which is too extended. Right now,
I saw a question on that one.
But I guess technically it's within 5% of the buy, so you could nibble, but it feels 2 or 3 days too late here, or at least yesterday as it was going over the high of the downside reversal. Yeah, right there. That's really where you could have been buying it. And so it's still a little bit extended, but that's one of the ones that is leading the group higher. So I think the group has more room in it.
Yeah,
but go ahead.
Could we take a look at Lennar too? Lennar really did not respond well to its January 8th earnings report. It tried to run higher. It closed all the way near its low, but volume has stayed heavy in this stock and looks interesting. It looks like a little double bottom base here with a 60.79 buy point, still in buy range. It's flirting with flirting with an all-time high here. So Lennar,
Yeah,
in
I
that
think
home
for
builder
me,
theme.
if I were to go into the housing sector, I would do the ETF and
The
probably
ETF.
the triple leverage one.
Yeah, the nail.
And
That's the one I'm doing. Yeah.
yeah. In fact, I saw a question earlier. Someone was asking what does triple leverage mean, and so in this case, ITB is the non-leveraged ETF, and it tracks the Dow Jones Home Construction Index, and then Nail, same stocks, but it's leveraged, and they do it with futures and I
Yeah.
guess options too. I'm not sure exactly how they do it as well, but uh, and so what's nice about the triple leverage is it actually you get price moves like an individual stock,
Yeah.
whereas a lot of times with the indexes,
If
it's
you
gonna
want
be
it,
much more.
you know,
Yeah,
because sometimes you want just the single or the double,
right.
you know.
Yeah, and sometimes like when they're so volatile,
Mhm.
our good friend Praveen, he loves playing JNUG, and this thing, will go up and down 5-8% in a day, and because he really likes to play volatility and will sell calls against it, and that to me, it's just too volatile.
I can't handle that.
Yeah,
I can't.
exactly.
It looks like Snap is going into out of this consolidation. It's really like there was a base that failed that then formed this other kind of weird
Mhm.
base, cupish type of
Other
thing.
weird,
Well, yeah. So, do you use Snapchat?
I don't, but I think I'm
Are
in
you
the
one of the? Okay, are
minority.
you
Yeah.
too old? Is it mainly like younger
No, I
kids
think a lot of people my age use it. I just
still?
don't.
You
What
Yeah.
don't?
about
Okay.
People like TikTok more though.
TikTok. My
Yeah.
kids have TikTok, and I told them to get rid of it because it's supposed to be this Chinese, like backdoor into like our Wi-Fi at home. Do you
Okay.
guys know about TikTok?
No.
Oh, you can make these cool videos, right? Or you explain it. You know it better. Is that
Yeah,
like
it's like Snapchat, but just more videos, I guess.
yeah?
A friend, is that the same as Marco Polo, where it's like video chat? Okay, Justin
Yeah,
says it's different, but
it's different. They make little videos. They make videos of my dogs, Georgia and Violet, and then they put music behind it, and they're really cool. And they dress, the dogs, and then they share it. But so do you don't use Snapchat at all?
No,
Okay,
no.
yeah, me either. So how do you look at this base?
Let me take a look. Uh, it is, well, I guess it's a consolidation. It doesn't qualify as a flat base.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
too
too
deep.
deep.
Yeah, too deep.
31%. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's got a good RS rating, so I mean,
Yeah.
97 is pretty strong.
Yeah, and it actually, if you look where Mike, you were talking about, there's really a cut base within this
Yeah.
consolidation that started right there. And if you look at the RS line right there, it's not that far off.
Yeah.
If it had a powerful move, across the pivot, I think that would at least confirm the left side of the RS line. And
Can we go to the daily and check
sure,
that part out?
I will say, uh, while still got the sales growth, it's now been public, 3 years, and still no profits in sight.
It kind of reminds me a lot of Facebook, and I think Justin might have mentioned that when we were talking about this one before. But you can see that first base that it tried to break out of and had that downside reversal at that what is that 1817.
Right.
So anybody in there would have trading our style would have sold it as it was breaking the 50-day and going lower. So it kind of shook out all those people. So I look at this as really a first stage base. It's just pattern rec is picking up as the entire thing, and this is really a kind of a cup without handle, or you could say that you had a little short handle like a week or so ago. Even you could have bought it as it was going over the 1590. Yeah, that would be stretching it a bit. I wouldn't have buy it there, but those are areas of resistance if you were trading it that you could have been buying it. And so
This is
think it's
also,
interesting.
I mean, it's also a stock after 5 straight weekly price gains and another one taking shape today. It's not exactly straight up off the bottom, but anytime you see a strong move off a bottom like this and a cup-shaped base, ideally you'd like to see a little bit of a shakeout
Yeah,
before a breakout. We
I like
talked
that
about
shakeout
Melly.
before
Yeah,
breakout.
shakeout before a breakout.
Shake out
Melly.
before you break it.
Melly could be, is kind of a similar, cup base.
That had an upside reversal today. Can we take a look at that, Melly?
Mhm.
Kind of waiting to see if a handle could be forming, in Melly right now at last check.
Oh yeah.
And look,
That
go to
would
the
be
daily,
really
and you'll
nice.
see that it's come back nicely today. How do you look at that, Ken?
Well, it was certainly volatile. Yesterday there were some big sellers in the stock. It was there was some volume behind the move, but if we can maybe get a little handle here, obviously the 700 level is a round number of resistance to watch, but maybe we get a little shakeout here and Melly can get going again. But a good upside reversal today. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that could end up being the bottom of a handle. Like I wouldn't buy it here, but it's doing what's right for America, as somebody could say around here.
South America.
Oh, so you guys are so
Yeah.
quick, man, witty and quick.
Uh,
I'm
we got
still
a couple-
laughing in my head about the DVD comic.
Got a couple people asking about DT, so let's check in with DT, our other crazy IPO, at least crazy from the price action. The company seems pretty solid, has great institutional sponsorship, and it's in the software space doing, I guess, business, tracking and analytics. We took a look at the
Similar
Yeah,
to
you sent a really
ServiceNow.
good deck
yesterday.
to us.
It's really
yesterday.
similar to ServiceNow. I mean, they provide very similar services. I'm not sure what the differentiator is, but this one is definitely in keeping with our theme of new issues that are known for volatile price swings. It is. I mean, we can call it a Shreve special because there's a very easily identifiable buy point that we're working off here of 27.29. So people are probably wondering, is it buyable here? Yes, technically it's still in buy range from that entry, but boy, it's not for the faint of heart. You can see a pretty nasty reversal yesterday.
I backed out. I backed out
like
of it yesterday completely, not because I don't like it. And the sponsorship, like you were talking about with Contra in there, that's great. But it was more of a portfolio management thing. Like if I've got all these other volatile stocks, and I had to get rid of this one too. No, it looks like it's got to put in some time there with yesterday's downside reversal that you're talking about. That if we mark time here, I'm going to use that as a point to maybe get back into it.
So a way to deal with that volatility is you could buy an option on it. I'm just checking right now, and the Februarys are too close. I wouldn't recommend. You're going to be dealing with a lot of time decay. But so if you went out to May, which is 121 days, as a percentage, assuming you're going to have to pay the ask on something like this, and it's trading at 28.11 right now, you're risking 12% as in terms of the stock. So that's probably if you really want to do something, but I don't know. It's just a hard one to hold, and I still have some shares, but I did back off of it yesterday because it's just very, very wild, especially right above the buy point. Although it is holding it, and it hasn't undercut this area yet.
I mean, it didn't need to be sold. Like if you own it, you don't have to sell it, but you also have to be honest with yourself and say, okay, if all your other stuff comes in, are you going to sell it a lot lower? And that's kind of how I was looking at it. Just saying, sell them while you can, not when you have to.
The other thing to think about is that earnings are coming up at the end of the month before the open on the 29th. And actually, let me sign into Panerai.
While you're doing that, one question, and the Panerai just kind of jogged my memory. We got a lot of questions on it, and I made a mistake yesterday talking about the SD rating. that we have in Panerai and Wanda, and it's not in MarketSmith, and it's only in some of the mini charts in the paper. So everyone doesn't have access to it, and we were talking about it quite a bit, and it's something that I use, and I apologize for that because I know people were searching around and calling customer service. I spent time searching for it on MarketSmith and couldn't find it, so shoot me, I guess. I'm putting myself in the penalty box.
All right. And
can I just point out at the top of the show during the news we mentioned United Health Group in the Dow good earnings reports. I just wanted to point out the weekly chart here. Weak relative strength line alert for this one. United Health Group, UNH. But
let me warm up.
But I just
look at that.
I just really want to point out the weekly chart here as just a super healthy chart. And if you're looking for maybe a safer, less volatile stock for the portfolio, I know we don't talk a lot about Dow stocks, but this is a really nice looking chart. And relative strength line is lagging, but this is just really what a good solid conviction test of the 10-week moving average looks like for the first time after a breakout. So just calling out a pretty healthy stock chart for United Health Group in the Dow.
And it has been outperforming. It's consolidating these gains. So there's that. I'm less picky about RS lines on these long-term leaders, and
it's had some big moves in there.
Yeah.
And it's the third highest priced stock in the Dow. The Dow is a price weighted index. I only look at the Dow because everyone quotes the Dow on TV, but it's really an irrelevant, besides that everyone is looking at it, it's an irrelevant index, anything that's still price weighted, but you have to pay attention to the big guys in there. And this is the third largest by price, so it's good for the market as my long, is what I'm trying to get to.
Right.
And again, I differentiate between stocks that are testing support at their 10-week moving averages and those that are finding support with conviction. And this is turned into a lot more than just a test. This is a nice, this is a good solid test of the 10-week line. Support is not in question anymore. So when you're looking at a stock testing the 10-week moving average, ultimately you want to see a nice solid up week and a good bounce off the line, and you're getting that with UNH for sure.
Go ahead.
Well, we're also let me draw. So to put it into context, this thing has made a tenfold move since the 2009. So definitely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And generally it outperforms the market, although it had been underperforming, but it is now regaining that leadership. So if this is like the beginning of another leg up,
and it's a long-term leader.
Oh yeah. This has all the hallmarks of a long-term leader, and so it has plenty of room before it would get to the upper part of the channel line. And when I was Ken was first talking about it, stability of 5, so lower is better. ROE 20, 25. The only thing that's a little bit of an issue is that this year's estimate is under 10%. We usually like to see them in the double-digit area.
But you got a pickup for next year, which is nice.
So at least it's going in the right direction. So especially if you're wanting to add something to your portfolio that's going to be less volatile and
I agree.
would turn into something, because it's the other nice thing is it's coming out of this consolidation where it basically marked time the last couple of years, and that would suggest that
it's close to the $300 psychological thing.
Right. So if we can punch above that and keep going, that would be
I think it's actionable here for
definitely
that part of your portfolio. Like, not a huge position, but just, it's also nice to have earnings behind you, as we're starting earnings season.
Yeah. So they came. Yeah, exactly.
And leadership in the managed care group is pretty broad based too. So you've got industry group strength working in UNH's favor as well.
Good point.
So there's a question about CrowdStrike, and since I'll ask Mike about it, since he's now
Sure.
the specialist in buying things off the bottom.
Dude, it's so good that you're so much bigger than me, or I'd come over there and I'd call you. But I wouldn't want to take one hit back. I did box with Arusha the other day. Did you catch that? Yeah.
Well, I saw the slow motion boxing.
Really?
I forgot to say the slow.
I didn't
no, it
want
was
to
just
talk
like-
about that part. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I saw it.
I think I won that
Is that
fight.
right? Were you guys working out?
Yeah.
Nice.
They were
I'll show
landing.
you the video.
They were
Okay.
landing slow motion shots.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Mike.
So clearly,
all
he does
kidding
not follow
aside,
me on Twitter. Is all I've got to say.
I do follow you, but
Not closely.
been a little busy this week.
Yeah.
So what do you think about this, Mike?
No, it looks like it's probably going higher because it's going over that 60. But you've got so many days up in a row, you want it to pause before you, enter something like this. So it's kind of no man's land as far as I'm concerned. I did put it on a watch list yesterday as I was going through everything to just follow it again, but I wouldn't buy it here.
Okay.
But I think it's going higher.
And then our other IPO that we've been checking up on all the time is INMD, and Louis Paleo, or maybe it's Louis, is asking about INMD in mode, up 5%. I don't think is it up 5% today? 2.5% right now. So, this was looking really good earlier when it was breaking the downtrend and then regaining the 50-day. And then yesterday, as soon as there was a little bit of market weakness, this thing really reversed hard, because that, I remember we were first looking at it early and saying,
It was
it's holding up okay. And then.
But we were also talking about how is this chart going to resolve itself? And that's something I always like to do when I look at it, just go, okay, what does this look like? And how does this get to $60? And if it goes in a straight line, it's going to look really funny.
You're right.
So I backed out of the position because, I was looking at it going, all right, what can I expect? And I didn't know what to expect. And in a case like that, I just said, you know what, I'm just going to back away from it. I like this story. It's a hot stock. I want to get back into it, but I want some sort of area to trade off of. And it doesn't have that right now. If you have it from the original cup, I would hold it if you've sat through it, but I wouldn't be adding to it.
Right, and it seems to me the ideal situation is that it would consolidate right around here, and then even if it's a couple weeks, it doesn't have to be like a full base within a base or anything like that. But then if it takes over this, let's see, $45.95, so $46. That at that time, probably the 50-day would be right up there. And so really retaking the 50-day with, volume and moving up, that would be kind of the ideal action of where at least I could say, no, maybe jump back into this.
And then you have something to trade against. So you know what to expect right now.
Right.
I mean, Rachel, how do you look at this chart?
Very volatile. Personally, I don't think I would be able to trade this one. Wouldn't be able to stomach it. But yeah, the RS rating is great. Let's see.
So she's fair, honest, and funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, good team member.
Well, nice.
In my own writing and in recent weeks, I've been talking about in mode. I mean, in my own opinion, I really would like to see this form a good base, a good second stage base. I mean, it tried to come above the 50-day moving average last week in heavy volume. It did, and then it closed below it. It rallied back. Monday in light volume, very volatile yesterday. So ideally, I mean, it would just be nice to see this form the right side of a base, and maybe you can get an early entry somewhere. But the stock still needs to prove itself to me.
Look at that. So there's a question from Mark Thomas on Halozyme. Halo is the ticker, HLO, that's been breaking out. And what's nice about this one, it's a biotech, has pretty good sales growth that picking up lately, and supposed to turn profitable this year. So that's a good sign.
I just don't like that weekly. I don't know.
Just because it hasn't done anything.
Hasn't done anything. Maybe let's go to the monthly and see if it's ever had a big move.
Yeah, early, yeah.
It did have it. Okay. It's just too volatile. Like, you know, I mean, looking at that monthly, I don't have a good sense of it. I mean, I guess if I knew the story inside and out.
Yeah. The volume wasn't all that impressive yesterday when it crossed, although it was
a big move though.
Yeah, big move and a decent volume, especially on a day when the market wasn't doing a whole lot. Maybe they were presenting yesterday at the JP Morgan conference. Let me just take one quick look on the fund ownership. And anyone, yeah, see, it's not none of our favorite funds are showing up in there. And let's just see if we notice any of.
I don't see anybody.
Yeah. Although, you know, Alger isn't bad. Some index funds as well. So, Justin is letting us know that we're at the 7:30 mark. So let's start wrapping things up and go back for a moment.
You know,
and see where we are in the market.
NOC is looking. The RS line looks terrible on it, so we know what you're going to say. But just looking for something that I would call kind of like a setup day, and if we could take a look at that on the daily or the weekly first, NOC.
Okay, let me just get my screen back in order.
That's no big deal if it's minimized.
Really? I'm just so scared now.
So this is kind of another slow pokey one, like, you know, kind of like the VRTX. So if you're looking for something like that in your account, this is not, or a UNH type of move, you know, to balance out some of the riskier ones. And plus it's a defense stock. So even though things have resolved themselves, it looks like with Iran, you never know, something could, you know, come back. And let's go to the daily real quick, because this was kind of my point. That today's action is kind of, to me, I call that a setup day, where you have this cup with handle and it's setting up to break out of the handle. So if you're going to nibble, like I like to do, you know, just have a token position in it here with the expectation that, you know, tomorrow or the next day, tomorrow, it should break out above that handle. And if it does, then that's when you make it a real position. If you like the, if you want to have some exposure here. Now, there's certainly problems. Yeah, earnings out soon, you know, some of the numbers are nothing to write home about, but just that concept I just wanted to, you know, to mention. And looks like it's a first stage base here after undercutting that last base.
All right.
And the top performer in leaderboard today is an industry group peer of Northrop Grumman, TransDigm Group, surging to another all-time high. Yeah, it's very extended at this point, TDG, but it's in the same industry group as NOC.
Okay. All right. So the market is, I think, near the high. Oh no, it's a little off the highs of the day, but up 0.3% on the NASDAQ and just under 0.3 on the S&P. Now let me just see, is there anything else that we should be taking a look at that we hadn't? Looks like it's all there. Well, let's do a little recap of what we've been looking at today. So
sure.
One of the first ones was Progeny. And that's looking better. So if you took a nibble when we were saying, maybe not a great place to nibble, at least you're up now. So
yeah, but be careful with this one.
Yeah.
I mean, this is this is not for the faint of heart.
Exactly.
You read my mind.
Right. You know, when we did talk about was First Solar, you know, in the news, and that's looking terrible. It was already looking terrible. I'm curious to see what Solar Edge is doing, and that's just doing fine. That's one.
Mark Thomas was asking or mentioning that it was holding up.
Yeah. So nicely. That's good. pod, went above the buy point and pulled back. So I wouldn't really be doing much with it right now. Wait and see if maybe it could take out the high of the day, because we talk a lot about that first hour high. So
it's felt a little wedge. I've got a position in it, and I really want to make it a big position. We're all trading the Dexcom too, but it has this wedgy feel to it. Could you go back to the pod just real quick, and then we could touch that one? What I mean by that is each day it's not undercutting the low of the prior day. That's it's a mixed bag because it's showing strength, but it's also hasn't shaken out anybody yet. So maybe this ends up forming a little handle here or something. Or if it just ends up powering higher, I'll probably add to it. But I'm wanting kind of a Shreve special.
a real
I'm
classic
feeling in the need of. Let's go to the Dexcom.
Yeah. So Dexcom, actually, it's gotten a little. It had the big reversal, positive reversal. 2 days ago on Monday, and then yesterday and the prior day, it had poked into new highs and then reversed. So this thing is kind of grasping for direction right now.
But the closes are almost unchanged.
Yeah, you're right.
And so it's getting support in there. And you do want to have some, this is the opposite of pod where it is testing people. So it's shaking people out. And, I've massaged my position in this and yet, and I'm waiting to make it, a really big position. So how do you look at this one?
How do I look at this one? I was just sending a tweet out about your quote a minute ago,
okay,
so
I'm
it wasn't about that. It wasn't.
She's such a hard worker, multitasking.
Multitasking.
Double.
Okay, sorry.
So
no, it's okay.
Let's go to TPX, and this one was looking better when we first checked in on it. Now it's reversed. So this has kind of been the issue with this stock. It starts looking like it's ready to go, and it had a great breakout here and move on earnings too, and then has just I dare I say, is this turning into a stair stepper?
I've been waiting for you to recognize that. Yeah. But I'm fine with stair steppers.
I'm not when they should be growth stocks. I'm fine with long-term leaders being stair steppers.
Okay.
So
we don't have to agree on everything.
Fair enough. Bill is
you would expect a bigger move out of that. I mean, I've got it, and I would hope that it would get a little bit more oomph, here breaking out into new highs. So we'll see. Still
just
early
curious
in the day.
that we're still not seeing, and even though it's still counting that first huge day as big volume, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not. I would expect a bigger move. We'll see.
And this is one. It's unprofitable.
Yeah.
No estimated profits, but it does have nice big sales and 60, 80. It is over 100 million in trading in the 12-month sales. And the RS, we got a blue dot. So the RS line is confirming that actually it's at a new high.
Yeah.
So the only thing missing here is volume. Maybe and we do know sometimes how volume comes in the next.
Yeah. That happened with what stock was that? Shopify recently, where as it was kind of breaking out, you just didn't get. Well, yeah, I guess you didn't get the volume afterwards either. But with that move, it's kind of funny. We haven't seen any above average volume days, since it broke the 400. It was very strange.
And then another one was
Bill used to say it's playing possum.
Well, at least it's playing possum in an uptrend. So that's if you can't have the volume, at least you're getting the price action. But
that one's looking nice. This is what I kind of call a setup day as well. As it's not breaking out of anything, but it's setting up. So your expectation is that tomorrow it moves higher. So lots of times I'll buy on setup days. I just don't buy heavy, and then I keep it really tight. So if it doesn't go up, I just exit the position because my expectation is that it's going higher. And I like talking about expectations, even writing about them.
Oh yeah, how's that coming along?
Well, it's into my editor, and he's gonna my very first story on expectation breakers. Look for that in a newspaper we know as IBD.
IBD
With
Weekly.
plenty of music analogies, I'm sure.
Only one.
Oh, okay. Well, better than
It's
nothing.
something I don't
Yeah.
typically talk about, but let's just say it's one of the best songs of all time,
All right.
and
Well,
has
you'll
to
have
do with the state we're in.
All right.
State of the state.
Yeah.
And then the other one that I think we all agree is actionable is United Health. If you want a more steady long-term type growth
Yeah.
company, this looks
Yeah.
good.
Totally actionable.
Yeah. So a lot of interesting.
We also talked
stuff.
about Target. We should
Oh,
just
that's right.
circle back to that.
I've-
And just briefly, we were getting questions about Walmart. Walmart's has looked even worse. So, and we briefly talked about Amazon. So it might just be that Amazon is getting, the sales that Target and Walmart aren't getting.
Mhm.
Because they
And
both look bad.
And this is a classic sell signal for those that have a gain in the stock that are thinking, this is just pretty
Going back to
unequivocal here.
Target, yeah, and it's not. Ideally, you would have liked to see some support coming into the stock, and it just doesn't seem to be happening right now.
Yeah, at this point, if I had it, I don't think that could still be sitting with it, because I was expecting it to try to get some support in here. So, and Amazon is setting up. If it takes out that high from a week ago, I'll probably be buying some.
Right here.
It's got a whopping 41 worlds of strength number.
Like I said,
it's higher than
yesterday,
40s.
If you cover up the ticker and looking at that, would you spend any time on it?
Hell no, I would not.
Okay, that's all. That's
But,
all I'm saying.
Bezos is the second smartest person in the world.
Behind Ed?
No, behind Elon Musk.
Oh, okay. All right. With that, we will wrap things up, and we'll see you tomorrow. Again, if you're still having issues with getting the recap email, reach out to customer success, even though Jonathan Howard was complaining, but do at the very least give them your email. They'll forward it to us, and then we can send this out. We do have a list of people that we're sending out manually outside of the email system. But from what we've been hearing, every time they really dig into someone who is not getting the email, it's either because
the spam thing.
Yeah, well, they opted out, or the spam filter is catching it, and so you need to whitelist the URL, which is investors@em.investors.com. I wrote it down in the answers in the Q&A today. So, investors at I'm sorry. Let me try again. Investors@em.investors.com. And so, if you whitelist that should take care of.
And how do people whitelist something?
Well, it's the same. It's different on different platforms.
Oh, okay.
But you can find something where it says add to safe senders list, or accept.
Or just say
everything.
not spam. Like
Not
click
spam,
on it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Things like that.
whitelisting. Okay.
Right. Same sort of thing.
Indexes strengthening, all-time highs for the Dow and S&P 500.
Okay. Well, let's.
And by the way, your jacket looks great on you.
Thank you very much. I did the news today.
Okay, that's true. All right. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you back tomorrow.